Okay, good evening. This is the August 15th meeting of the Laconia Conservation Commission, and we're going to start by pledging allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a quorum tonight, which is good. And we are going to modify the agenda so that we can... Introduce yourself. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Dean Anson.
I'm Dick Christopher.
Go ahead, Evan.
Evan Radford, staff technician.
Lisa Moran.
Deb Williams.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Okay, I got ahead of myself. Actually, scary thought. So we'll start with the Trail Haven project so that we don't delay your opportunity to go out and watch a sunset, because it'll be one of the few you'll be able to watch before it starts raining again.
Right.
Tomorrow's gonna be nicer than today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, as long as it's not as humid, it'll be really appreciated.
I don't suppose you could put that thing on the other side of the rostrum there,
Yep.
so we could actually read it.
If you'd like, I have copies of them too,
Okay.
by 17.
Oh, great, thanks.
I think he means closer.
Thank you.
You want closer or on the other
I can get it closer.
Thank you.
I just say he's gonna be pointing out stuff, so. We've been this route before, you can't see it.
Yep. I understand. And, you know, I just didn't want to block out the whole audience here, so.
Oh, they won't mind.
So this is a project that was approved in 2004, and it's been built along. There was a proposed road, Barber Boulevard, extension of the existing Barber Boulevard, went up to a cul-de-sac. That's all been built. Most of the houses have been built. These two lots here have been built on. There's Colby Court down here, had 6 units on that. That's all been built on. And then it just sat for a while. So everything was put in. All the underground utilities are in. There's a 30,000 gallon cistern here that was put in. So everything was, all the services were installed. And fast forward to 2018, the economy's doing a little bit better, so they went to build the other lots. And the question came up is in 2008, the buffer changed from 30 feet to 50 feet. So when this was approved, everything was designed and laid out with a 30-foot wetland buffer, and now the regulations have it as 50. There is the theory of vested and those kinds of things. So we talked with planning and building. They said it'd be best to kind of talk to you guys about this and do it through this. So that's why we're here tonight is to talk about that. So what it prompted too is we took another look at the development. So there's 2 pods. One has 3 units and one has 2. They were pretty tight back when they were originally designed with a 30-foot setback. So there wasn't a whole bunch we could do. But I kind of focused on the value and quality of the wetlands and those elements of it, and tried to pull things back. The units themselves were a little bit smaller than what was originally proposed, so we have less impervious surface than what was originally done. In this pod of units, what we had this wetland out front in here that to me looks like it was probably man-made. It looks like it was excavated. It's the least valuable of the wetlands, and we pretty much don't have a choice. We're grading pretty close to the 30-foot setback up to this wetland. I pulled everything back as far as I could reasonably out of this, so we're hitting it almost everywhere except I needed a little bit of retaining wall to make there's a pretty good grade change in through here. And so we have to swing the common sewer force main just crosses over down in here, and foundation drains are the only things that are impacted between the 50 and the 30-foot buffer lines. So.
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
How does that drawing relate to the first one?
This drawing is these 3 units right here.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So those 3 units, are these 3 Barber Boulevard, same orientation, north is up. So we really tried to just minimize our impacts in that 50 to 30-foot buffer, but there's no way, given the size of the lots. There's 30 acres of open space in the original subdivision, and the building envelopes were made pretty small at the time. They fit fine in the 30-foot setbacks, but now we're getting a little pinched. So then if you move up to the cul-de-sac, which is the next 4 lots, at the end of the cul-de-sac, again, we have a stream up here in this location, and then we have a wetland system down here, and then there's a wetland system on the other side of the cul-de-sac. And there's this upland ridge that goes through the middle, and that's where the proposed development was. The green lines on here are the 30-foot setback, the blue the 50. Everything is, under the original approval, apparently, wells, and there were foundation drain outlets in the 30-foot setback. We were able to move all those out of the 30-foot setback and ran our drains so that they weren't discharging in there as well. But we still have some impact between the 30 and 50, so there's no wetlands impacts. This is all just that from the 30-foot setback to the 50-foot setback. And essentially, we have a little bit behind these units, we've got the right-of-way lines right here for the cul-de-sac. And we'll be right on top of it with this unit. So I did the best I could without totally putting that building there right on top of the cul-de-sac. This unit I was able to get out of the 50-foot setback. This unit is out of the 50-foot setback. But over in here, we've got quite a bit of grade change, so getting that grades to work, regrading a little bit between the 30 and 50.
So in this diagram, 3 of the 4 are legitimate as far as the setback goes, is that correct?
Buildings, yeah.
Yeah, but you got one that's sticking out into it a little bit.
Yep. And then there's a little bit of grading, wells and stuff, but we really try to minimize that as much as possible without building some really dumb-looking units. We try to minimize as much as possible.
Is there any reason why building 15 couldn't have been pulled forward towards?
Yeah, this is the right-of-way line, and this is 20 scale, so you're really from the front deck to the right-of-way of Barber Boulevard right now is only about 12 feet. So that's just say if you're sitting on the front of your deck, you know, how close, we're out, this is out in Country Club Lane.
Yeah.
It's kind of out there. I was trying to come up with a happy medium there between the wetland and building the house on top of the road.
If that proposed drive had been moved further up on your plan, and then the building moved down where there's a bend, would that have worked out?
Swapping the driveway and the
Move the building down, well, let's say it would be southeast. Look, not if it's southeast or not, but southeast as we look at the plan.
Yeah, I mean,
Moving
I
it
think
downhill,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
moving the driveway up, that would give you more room right in that area there. You might be able to contain the whole building.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. We could look at it. I don't think, it's really the grading that's in the, we wouldn't change that at all. Our impact to the budget would be the same.
Well,
But the physical structure might be.
it seems like you got enough room to slide that whole building down and move the driveway up. I mean, it's just a thought, you know, help you here.
See if it makes an improvement, sure.
You understand what I'm saying on this?
Yeah,
See where there's a bend,
Yeah, no, and it looks like that. I'm a little concerned about the septic, which has the gravity feed all the way down to here.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna put the house on the other side of the driveway, which means I have another septic going, leaching line going underneath the
Well,
driveway.
Your plan might fly.
But, and our net impacts will be the same, it just won't be a structure, that's all. That's what, you understand what I mean?
I'm not trying to be, opposing you here, just trying to give you a suggestion that
I
won't
understand.
be, somebody look at it and say, why didn't you do that, when you get the planning.
Yeah, I mean, we have underground utilities which are already into.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. They're all subbed, basically everything.
Well,
Tim?
but they haven't been brought into the houses yet, right? I
No,
mean,
no,
they
just right at the right of way line.
Yeah, just right at,
Pipes coming up out of the ground.
I was just curious if you wanted to take a stab at some of those questions that they had
Sure.
indicated in the letter.
Sure.
for-
Yeah.
So, before we go any further.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Tim, I have a question. This says 1 inch equals 20, but that's not really the scale of this, because that must be the scale of that larger drawing, because this is not an inch, this is more like a half an inch, so,
Right, those, an 11 by 17 is exactly half, so
Right.
this is 20,
Yeah.
it's 40.
right, so it's really,
you can see the graphic scale on the bottom.
oh, I know, but still, it's, okay.
Half inch is
It's
20.
actually, it is actually plotted at 1 inch equals 40. So in order to get a 22 by 34 down to 11 by 17, cut it in half.
Okay, right,
Sure.
okay, so,
Do you want to read it?
Can
Yep,
you shoot first?
yep.
So, in the requirements for a conditional use permit, these are in the,
The bulleted questions on the front was what I was referring to. I don't know if that was what you were,
oh, I see, I didn't see this before. Sure.
oh, I thought it was addressed to you, is it not?
Yeah,
All right.
Lisa,
Yeah.
actually, Tim, before you, those ones are ones that I had just warned the applicant, you guys may ask.
Well, I appreciate that, and since they were provided, I mean, they are questions we generally ask, so it's not something that,
you know, the site is very small, and the pre and post was all done as part of the original subdivision, the drainage. And we met all of the criteria, as AOT permit and all of that stuff was all done, as part of the original, permit. So things like rain gardens and those things would be addressed for water quality, and those were all addressed in the subdivision. These are just single-family lots really at this point that we're building on, that were subdivided in the original subdivision. The next bullet item is the previous pavement, pervious pavement, and alternative to normal impervious paved driveways. Again, these are groundwater recharge things which were addressed as part of the original subdivision. At this stage, especially where we've already taken 30 acres of the property and put it in open space, all we have left in this little town is open space lot. So we don't really have land to do those things on. That was all done as part of the original subdivision.
is there, and pardon my ignorance, is there a calculation that says you require more space for pervious pavement than you do impervious pavement? I think isn't it just more a construction, an alteration to the way you construct the driveway or whatever surface you're using it on and maintenance?
Sure. Right, so these are single-family lots at this point.
Mhm.
So we're talking about the driveway.
Well, in my mind, I'm thinking driveway, but that really, you could, because these are not areas that are considered heavy use areas, like a receiving area for manufacturing or anything, you could actually have some sort of porous application in more than just the driveways. But the question is, it's open-ended, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure, we have used porous pavement in the past, but, you know, where we were creating a lot of impervious surface. So we actually reduced the impervious surface from the original proposal already.
By how much? I'm just curious, because I wasn't here for the original proposal, the original
Yeah,
applicant.
the buildings are about a third, about two-thirds. The buildings are about two-thirds the size of what was previously proposed, so.
Same number of buildings, just
Same
smaller
number,
building.
right.
Thank you.
And, you know, we have there's a lot of open space, a lot of places for stormwater.
Well, I think the next question will lead you into
Is it
that.
graded, is the site currently or going to be graded to direct the stormwater to those open space areas?
Right, so, you know, they're really, really small lots, really small development envelopes. This dark dashed line is actually the lot that this house sits on. So this is all graded to sheet flow. This lot sheet flows. Then to protect the septic system, we have graded it around, so that the stormwater drains out into this open space. Then going that way, you have the bypass. So the bypass is right here. So, and these lots all drain this way towards the bypass. Again, the impervious area is pretty small. It never made it. The soils are pretty good.
It's all woods back there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, this is all woods. The soils is, the top 40 inches is just gravel, which is really nice gravel. That's why I think this was excavated. I think that's why that's a man-made well in there. But you get down to 80 inches, you get to not bedrock, but a little bit impervious soils, more compacted. And so that's where these wetlands appear, as the gravel isn't there, it's sort of the pockets of gravel.
so, and I'm not trying to trip you up, but in my mind, all the more reason to have some sort of filtration system and not have the impervious surfaces of the roofs and the driveways, which kind of are collection points for pollutants, going right into a wetland, especially if it's a lot of gravel and may or may not be treated well, if it's a quick draining. And I'm not trying to trip you up. This is something that we have kind of become, it's part of our regular routine to ask these questions, because this is what the direction that a lot of industry, environmental industry professionals are looking at when you're doing construction. And I realize you're coming to this as an older, approved project, and now we're updating it. If somebody, so.
Yeah. As I said, we used the impervious pavement in other applications, but it was for different purposes, and you don't get really very good treatment with impervious pavement. It's for groundwater recharge more so than for treatment. Treatment to sheet flow it over vegetated land would give you much better treatment than putting where cars park directly.
Not sheet flowing it, retaining it somewhere so that it can soak in slowly. We've also don't approve of sheet flow into.
How is the drainage gonna work with the three closer to Colby Court? Is Colby Court part of your?
It was originally part of the development. It's all built out now. So these are the only lots left in Orange. The 3 here and the 4 here are the only lots left. All the other lots have been built on.
So what's the total number of lots that were in the original plan that have been built?
There's 8 that have been built, and there are 7 left.
Before you flip that, I'm still stuck on this number 15 here. What if you were to rotate the house on number 15 90 degrees counterclockwise? Would that fit, and without being on the 50-foot line?
I'd really have to look.
It looks like it could, because you've got on number 12 here, you've got that situation on number 12. It looks like.
Well, I understand what you're saying.
Is this the actual footprint of the house that we're looking at?
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like you could do a 90-degree rotation on it.
Then it wouldn't face the road.
Does it have to?
It's gonna be right on top of the road. So you'd be looking at the side of the house. So even if we were to slide it down here, there's no way you're gonna get any separation from the house. So if we were to swap these, I can throw a scale on it, but you can see how much farther back this line is.
I'm just saying, take the building itself and do that to it, counterclockwise.
Yeah.
So the front porch would face the driveway.
I mean, the other alternative is to make the driveway L-shaped, going toward the other houses, and move the house to the south on the lot.
Yeah, which I think is, you turn it 90 degrees, bring the driveway in on the other side.
No, I'm saying leave the house oriented the way it is,
Okay.
but just make the driveway, instead of a driveway being straight, make it L-shaped, going,
In front of the house.
yeah, so it'd be like, yeah, so the driveway would be L-shaped like this, and the house would slide over here.
So we're talking about my plan to slide the house down, is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that would, but that's, that's, I don't think we're quite there yet, but anyway, it's certainly an idea, that looking for alternatives so that you don't, and I can understand your position on the 30-foot buffer and now the 50-foot buffer. I owned a house that I wanted to put a porch on, and I had 0 buffer when my house was built.
Right.
So when I went to put the porch on, I had a 50-foot buffer.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying. However,
I have a similar situation.
yeah, so we can identify with your frustration with that, but
Yeah, these, it's a vested issue, whether or not the development is vested, because you put in a cistern, 30,000-gallon cistern, you have, you vest the development, you vest the zoning requirements at the time the project is.
no, and the same thing happened with me. But that's, okay, but that's, so you have 8 that are built.
Yeah,
Are you the builder?
no, I'm, Tia Brown Incorporated, we're the survey and engineering
Yeah.
company with.
Who's the builder?
um,
It says owner of record here.
Yeah, it's, you go by, Ben is here, he's the, representing the builder and the owners of the project.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm Ben Baruti,
What's your name?
Ben Baruti,
Ben Baruti.
B-A-R-O-O-D-Y.
Did you do the engineering for Colby Court also?
No, Tanya Hiltz was the original developer, and she was the original builder on the project.
Full disclosure, I'm a butter.
About it to this?
I'm on Perkins Drive, yes.
Oh, sorry.
And my drainage has not been the same since Colby Court went in. So,
Down,
so show me where those 3 houses are gonna drain.
they're all draining towards everything's on that side of Barbara Boulevard,
I'm sorry.
and everything drains away, so, this is Barbara Boulevard, so
Yep.
you must be down.
No, I'm where Colby Court comes, straight down, like I'm straight down from there. Yeah.
down this way.
Yeah.
So, these drain this way, because they're actually lower than Barbara Boulevard, this, where these houses are going, they're lower. And then these two, this one would drain.
Yeah, I'm not worried about those, I'm worried about these.
They're put that way, you can kinda see all these contours, these are going up, and then you get a whole bunch here. That gives you an idea how much higher this house is.
Yeah, because the way that Colby Court was built up,
Yeah.
and then at the end of that street, it all drains down into my yard.
You're at the bottom at the cul-de-sac?
No, I'm on Perkins Drive,
Oh, okay.
so Colby Court is behind me,
okay, so here's Perkins Drive here, okay, so I understand.
yeah.
So, okay, so one of the things we definitely need is we need a plan that will show us how the surface waters will drain.
Okay.
And the other thing I would like to know is, you have 8 wells that were installed as sources of drinking water on the 8 existing houses?
Correct.
Okay. Have you, how deep are those wells?
No idea.
Okay. I would like to know what the radius of influence of those wells are. And the reason I'm asking is if all of these wells are operating at the same time, is there a possibility that you could drain the wetlands?
That's a whole different one. These are all drilled in bedrock wells, so they're not groundwater wells, so they're pulling from a completely different aquifer.
Yeah, the aquifer is by the skating rink, it's all, yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, so a drilled in bedrock well pulls from a bedrock aquifer. So wetlands are served by a groundwater aquifer, which is on the surface, it's within the first.
Right, and the groundwater aquifer drains to the bedrock aquifer. The water flows downhill.
Not necessarily, these wetlands could be, it gets very complex when you start getting 100 feet of bedrock. These wetlands could be,
Right.
They're there because of an impervious surface below them, which allows them to stay saturated. So they're fed by surface waters, and you're not, unless you, I don't know how you could possibly, I've never seen that happen.
I have.
Because they're not connected, really.
Okay, I'm,
I could see it, I suppose, if they were bedrock, if the wetland was formed by bedrock, so that the impervious surface below was bedrock, and then you did some blasting and maybe fractured the bedrock.
or you drilled through the bedrock and there were cracks in, there were fissures in the bedrock and the water flows down through. Yeah.
That's not what we have here, so there's a lot of soil in there, it's just impervious soil.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced, but if it's would be relatively easy to determine the radius of influence. I've had to do it before, and so I understand how it could be done, but, okay. That's just a recommendation, all right.
So,
Yeah. And I just want to go back to this wetland that, up here that you described as man-made. The state regulations say if it's man-made, you put it, you dig a hole and it fills with water and it takes on the characteristics of a wetland, it's a wetland.
Oh, yeah, no, we're
So,
not
yeah,
arguing
so-
that it's non-jurisdictional.
Right, no.
It's functions and values. I'm a wetland scientist as well.
Okay,
so,
okay.
We do a lot with functions and values. So when
Okay.
I look at a development, we kind of look at, the functions and
Sure.
values of the wetlands.
Okay. I didn't know that you were a wetland scientist, too, so.
I have a question, so about the foundation, I'm looking at the plan and talk about, with foundation drains, and just wondering about where that water's going to go. What exactly are you talking about, foundation, you talking about around the outside, like French drains? You're talking about, what kind of drain are you talking about? And the other question I have, before I forget it, because I'm old, is, you initially, I think you said this was all part of a subdivision? Initially, this was gonna be like a subdivision or association? When it was originally
This
approved?
is an open space subdivision, so there's 30 acres of open space. and
Oh, okay.
Then the people, each person buys a lot that's
So
reduced in size. because they-
the maintenance of all this infrastructure, is that dependent on each individual landowner, or is there like a
there's a homeowners
documents?
association.
There is a homeowners,
Because
okay.
Barber Boulevard is private, so that
Okay.
also.
So in their operations and maintenance and everything, all these infrastructures have, okay, schedules, okay. But the foundation drain, if you could explain that to me, thank you.
Yeah, so, well, every house in New Hampshire, you're crazy if you don't put a foundation drain in. Essentially, or a footing drain, they're often called footing drains. It's just a drain that runs around the house with the footing grade.
Gravel, you're talking about?
The footing of the foundation, so the concrete foundation that the
Yeah.
house is built on.
Yeah.
Sits on a footing,
Okay,
slightly bigger than, to distribute the weight of the concrete in the house. And that footing is actually below the slab floor of the basement. So you put the footing drains, or foundation drains, I don't know either way it works, at that footing grade, and then you drain any water out before we get into the basement. So it's there to protect the basement from flooding.
So how is that being treated in this case, because you've got,
So, every one of these houses would have a foundation drain. I don't think I've ever, I've been doing this for 30 years, I don't think I've ever seen a house built without a foundation drain. But,
come to my house, no, I'm just kidding. I just,
my first house didn't have foundation drains, I had to dig the whole thing out.
Are they gonna be basements? Are they gonna have basements?
Yes, yeah, and some of them are walkouts too, so it's
Okay.
less of a grade change.
so,
So then we just discharge them until they daylight, and we checked, all of these buildings have sill elevations assigned, and we know what the footing grade is gonna be, so we do know that these in fact will daylight at these locations.
so it's just an open pipe,
To drain out and daylight.
thanks.
This has got city water and sewer, I take it.
Nope,
No.
well and septic.
Okay, you show a new 1,500 gallon pump tank. And where's all this stuff going?
The leach field for these 3 units is right here. It's shown on there to the, so they all come down and drain.
Down here, that's the leach field for 3 units.
Does it extend past Colby Court at all?
What do you mean?
So, does it extend towards Perkins past,
Yeah. so
Colby
septic,
Court?
You can kind of see it here, the septic is here.
but I can't see where Colby Court is on that.
Oh, yeah, Colby Court's right here, that trail is shown. So you have, show you. This one. The septic system is right here where these test pits are, Colby Court's right here.
So
Leach field's right here,
it's
then
not
there's-
past there, yeah.
Oh,
So Colby Court goes around, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Colby here.
Yeah.
Right there.
So this Barbara Boulevard is all in now, right?
Correct.
Right to the cul-de-sac and all that? And the underground utilities are in as well?
There's a 30,000 gallon cistern that was put in right here. As well.
Going over to Unit 9. Let's see. Yeah, that one's sticking into the area too. Is there any alternatives on that one? Like maybe shortening the... Oh, okay, look, you got the driveway. Proposed driveway for Unit 9. Where's the garage gonna be on that thing? Or is there no garage?
No garage.
No, on any of these?
None of these have garages, no.
In New Hampshire?
You haven't been down south a lot then, Dave.
Well, I've seen people do away with their garage, and 2 years later, they put it back.
But this one, we have the boundary line of the lot is here. This was a walking trail that was a condition of approval.
Yep.
So we really can't go that way at all. We're right on it with the improvements. We have some grading, which is permitted, over. If I tried to slide it back, it just pushes the septic into the buffer going the other way into a more sensitive wetland. So, that's why I left it where it is. I slide it around and one thing affects something else, and just trying to come up with the best.
So it says the wells have a 75-foot protective radius. Protective from what?
That's a New Hampshire DES requirement. So these are septic designs for these lots. This is the only approval that's required that's left. And so Subsurface Systems Bureau requires
I
a
gotcha.
75-foot protected well radius, and
From the septic tank?
right, you can't push the leach field can't be in there.
Okay, I got you, okay. Thank you. What's the estimated price going to be of these houses?
No idea. What are you thinking?
We're gonna try to be somewhere around 250, give or take a little, depends on what you want in 'em. bathrooms, kitchens, you know.
They're all the same design though, it looks like. Am I right?
Yeah, we were kind of limited on what we could do here. So,
Yeah, this pod is one style, these are all two-bedroom units, and the other pod is different style. Each pod is the same houses. And then Colby Court is different, and the two that were in there are different.
So I don't see any snow storage, I mean, is there, how are we maintaining?
Well, these are all single-family houses.
Right,
so-
well, I don't know, the roads and stuff, is the city plowing it, taking it away, what's
No,
going
the
on?
city is not
No, it's
maintaining
away.
this road.
So I'm just kind of wondering, what are you doing about all that, kind of, where you
The
planning on?
homeowners association pays somebody to.
So I guess, Mr. Chairman, I don't know, what do we do in a case like this where there are some pertinent questions, I think? And if it's the homeowners association, do we end up reviewing those documents at some point, or what do we?
Right.
Okay. I
So,
just-
so you have 8 houses built, so you have a homeowners association that's already in existence, and they have different bylaws and things like that, that everybody follows. Supposed to follow, I'm sorry. So you're gonna have the same set of bylaws for these 7 new houses.
Right, so the infrastructure was built with the assumption that there would be, this total number of houses would be contributing to the maintenance of Barber Boulevard, the fire
It's-
cistern, to all of
What
these.
what I'm getting at is, I don't want that wetland to become a snow storage dump with salted water, is what I'm trying to get at. I'm just saying, it's not on here, so
Right,
that's my
so,
question.
and I think that's when, and I don't know what, you're gonna go to the TRC2, is that right?
Yep.
Yes.
Next up is the TRC2. So when you go to that, could you identify on your drawings the existing location for your snow storage?
There isn't really gonna be any, it's a road, so it all just gets plowed with snowbanks right beside the road, just like every other road.
Okay, so you're not gonna be,
It doesn't get hauled away.
Okay.
It's gonna be right there.
It's not really like, previous projects where it's all enclosed into one area.
mm-hmm,
It's more of they're just gonna plow it down the road, and they don't really have spaces to put it, it's just,
okay,
if I'm understanding it correctly.
Just like every other road.
okay.
Question, I'm not familiar with this, but is there any, within that 75-foot well-protective area, is there anything regarding lawns and stuff and fertilizer and whatnot that cannot be applied in that area?
No. Yeah, it's, for single-family residential development, there really, nothing is gonna be enough volume to be a problem. It would be a concern, that the restrictions on commercial.
Is that just for the, like, the septic stuff?
Right, keep the septic away from it, although, you know, there's been some studies that say you could drill a well in the center of your leach field, it wouldn't make any difference, because the fact that you seal a drilled well in the bedrock, and so no groundwater is supposed to get into your well if it's done right.
Right, supposed to.
I would just say with due respect, and I do mean that, actually, I'm not being flippant when I say that. Most, you talk about other single-family homes, they're not sitting surrounded by 3 wetlands. I mean, I think when you look at this site plan and you take into consideration the location, we do have some special circumstances here that warrant some additional behavior and cultural, culture of the homeowners association that is cognizant of the fact that they are in a highly drained, an area where the soils can be highly drained, and you have a water moving underneath that can, be accepting of the salt and any other junk. they grab a bag of fertilizer from Lowe's and throw the whole thing on, because if a little fertilizer is going to make your lawn green, a lot more must be better. And I'm just saying, that's not like that happens. I'm not having a fantasy here. That happens. And so I guess that's why I'm saying, you're not at any other street, in any, anywhere in Laconia or up on the uplands at Lad Hill. You're here with 3 wetlands, and that's mostly highly drained soils, and
What are your concerns?
I'm concerned that you do have impervious surfaces that I know you're saying that the units are smaller, but you just asked the question. You have impervious surfaces that can collect pollutants, and they are not being conveyed to a drainage that would allow those to somewhat be absorbed by soils that you would, like a rain garden or impervious surfaces, even though I know you're saying it's mostly not for treatment, it's for recharge. You also, you're talking about, well, the snow's just gonna pile up on these roads. At some point, we get a bad winter, you're gonna have too much snow, and it either has to be hauled away, or somebody's gonna come along with a bulldozer of some sort and just push it into the wetlands. So I think there should be something stipulated in the homeowners association limiting the amount of snow that can get piled up on those streets. And if it gets piled higher than is passable or safely, it needs to be removed off-site, unless you provide a location for snow storage where the melting snows and everything that goes with it is not going to adversely affect your wetland system. Your drains, I accept your explanation of the drains, and I don't know, Mr. Chair, I don't think that necessarily presents a pollutant problem if it's water that's just moving under there anyway. So, and as I said,
We can, Lisa, you can give recommendations.
well, he was writing it down, so that's why I was mouthing off.
Recommendations just to keep
So-
in mind, but ultimately,
Yeah.
it'll be up to the planning board to.
Exactly, I understand that.
Decision what
We're
needs to be
absol-
what.
Right, I understand we're nothing but advisory here, and there's no way I can enforce any of this. I was just explaining to him
Yeah,
where I'm
that's
coming
good.
from on it.
I've got questions.
I appreciate it.
During construction, it looks like in several cases, Unit 9, 8, 12, 14, and 15, you're going to be doing a lot of digging right at the borderline and perhaps into the wetland itself, the 50-foot buffer. What consideration is there for that, other than silk socks? I mean, you're showing the building foundation, like for Unit 12, right on the 50-foot buffer. 15 goes into it, 14's right on it.
So we proposed silt fence. My thought was that, and this is one of the things I was thinking we could talk about, for buffer signs. When this project was approved, it didn't require buffer signs, which I think you guys do now for the wetland buffer, would be to put buffer signs up before construction and put them at the limit of construction. So whenever we can meet the 50-foot setback, we'd put them there, and where they couldn't, so that would limit, so they would know what the limit of the work was, so that they wouldn't.
I mean,
go
you got
beyond
an excavator in there and he's digging, he's gonna do this to that, more this over to here.
Right. So, and we also used a lot of silt fence, and in the areas that Evan suggested, using a silt sock along where the stream is, we showed silt sock. But if those things, best management practices, have to go in before construction, so you're gonna have a fence at the limit of the work.
Okay, so your guy can't dump it over the fence.
Right. If he does, everybody's gonna know he did it.
If he does start doing that, I'm gonna know it, because this gets added to my list of inspections I do every week. So, that was actually why I had asked them to that's why I asked them to contact our office before they do any site work, is so I can make sure everything is in the right place.
Well, I would, from my own personal view here, is that most of these don't appear to be too terrible. It's not a good choice, I guess. But I'd like you to take a closer look at the ones that I've brought up already in regard to sticking their noses into the buffer zone.
Yeah, I made a note.
I know you're looking for changing of the buffer zone, but if for any reason you go to planning, they say no, you're gonna have an alternative plan.
And all the more reason why I didn't wanna put it too close to the road because they're gonna have snowbanks there, so we were only 12 feet now from the right-of-way line, so, you know,
Well,
it's just, I'm trying to also look at, protecting the wetlands and, creating a house that's livable. There's no point in building a house.
where's the ultimate drainage for these wetlands? Where does it end up going?
Some of it ends up in here, in this stream channel. There's a large wetland system over here behind Diane Drive that drains around into a very deep, this is see how many contour lines here, that's a very deep drainage channel. It runs down and goes under a culvert underneath the bypass. And then the others that are farther down here, there are several culverts underneath the bypass. And then once you get, then there's a ridge by Colby Court that directs it south.
Right into my yard.
So, are we talking named streams? Are we talking Jewett Brook? Are we talking Durkee Brook? Or
No.
No, there's no
They don't-
named
they don't
streams
lead-
out in this
they
area.
don't lead down to those named
Well,
streams?
after they go under the bypass.
That's what I was wondering.
They do hit Jewett Brook.
They're a tributary to Jewett Brook.
Yeah.
But I think the 75 feet only applies to
Okay.
the named main body,
Yeah, yeah.
not the
No, but the 30-foot buffer,
30-foot does.
so,
But these ones from when I went over the plans aren't impacting any of the 30-foot buffers. If there's a 30-foot buffer, it's already in the 50-foot.
okay, okay.
I just want to say, I'm not trying to, I recognize that we need housing in the area, so I'd love to, I'm not trying to rake you over the coals because, no, don't build these. I'm just saying, if we're gonna do it, let's do it in a way that's environmentally sensitive.
That's what we're trying.
I understand that.
What are you gonna heat the houses with? Propane?
We're gonna try to pre-sell them, so we'll put a heating system in, whatever the homeowner wants. But propane is pretty popular up here, so I think the majority will be.
Not fuel oil, not underground fuel oil tanks.
Oh, no, we don't have any underground tanks.
You can't anymore.
They don't do that anymore.
No,
No.
no.
Just asking.
Okay, so, we don't have a quorum. I mean, we have a quorum, but we don't have a quorum for this project because, one of our members is going to abstain.
You can still take a vote to do it.
Right.
It's just her vote.
I think we need to discuss it more ourselves.
Okay, okay,
Not take a vote now,
okay.
because there are other considerations I have that don't apply directly to this.
Okay. Well, do you want to make a motion then, that we,
What you mean, defer to?
that we postpone,
Postpone any voting on it, you're saying?
any voting? We
Yeah.
have to do that because
Yeah.
we don't have, but we can,
No, Dean, if you guys did vote on this with the recommendations, Deb's vote would be in, it just wouldn't, the way it works is she would abstain. She would not be going either way with it.
Right.
So if all three of you agreed in one vote,
Mhm.
the vote would stand. Just in any future legal things, Deb would be assumed she would go along with the rest of the board. Granted, we do not make any judicial decisions.
right.
And the other thing is if we waited till our next meeting, I don't know how this, I'm looking at the TRC 1, September 5th. I don't know what the
Yes, it
timing
is
would be.
September 5th. They would be meeting with us that night.
Well, I think we could still pass along the suggestions that were written down.
Okay, we can do that.
But I think we should defer any particular vote, yes, yea or nay on it at this point.
Okay,
Well, you don't really vote yea or nay on anything. You just vote to give them recommendations at this meeting.
well, okay, so what we could do is we can give you recommendations at this time with the understanding that after we have additional conversations,
Well, Dean, you have to have conversations in this meeting for this. Because if we have another conversation, they have to come back to the next meeting.
okay, but you know, I'm not sure that we don't need them to come back anyway. We don't have a drainage, we don't have, have the wetlands been delineated? Okay,
Peter Shower Environmental.
okay.
That was a recommendation I had submitted in my comments, if you look in there, is that they need to be marked in the field when work
Okay.
goes to, when work commences.
Okay,
Want the buffers marked,
Yes, the edges of the buffers,
so you don't get anywhere near the wetlands.
yep.
The only objections I have, and I still have them, is the ones I brought up regarding relocating those buildings that impact the 50-foot buffer. I mean, if somebody later on says, yeah, you can have your 30-foot buffer or 35-foot buffer, whatever, I think you need to have a plan that shows where those buildings would be, how they would be located within the proposed 50-foot buffer, or outside the 50-foot buffer. Which, to me, I'm not a civil engineer, but I've seen a lot of these plans, and it could be feasible.
You can vote to have that as a recommendation, that they keep
I
that.
think we already
located.
wrote that down.
mhm. Okay, so let's do this. Why don't we, let's put down the recommendations that we have so far, and then see where that takes us.
Can you read them back, or?
Yeah. Okay, so one of the recommendations would be, I would like to see the HOA bylaws. You know, they already exist, so that would be, you know, a relatively simple task. Make a copy and provide them to us. Notify the planning department prior to doing any site work.
That's a required by my.
Right,
that's a required
okay.
by my word.
Right, okay. The wetlands be delineated, so they're marked in the field, showing the 50-foot buffer. Topo plan, showing drainage, so that we know which way the water's going to be flowing, so we don't wind up having it flow into existing basements. We recommend changing the locations or orientations of units 9, 12, and 15, so that they are out of the, so they don't impact the 50-foot buffer.
14, if you're gonna look at it that way.
Okay,
12 is on the edge, 14's on the edge, 15 impacts, and looks like 13's the only one in the clear.
12 and 14 are outside the buffer.
Yeah, but they're right on the edge, yeah, yeah.
so I think that in many cases, it would just be a matter of shifting the building
Oh, yeah, and
one way or another.
Number 9,
Right.
number 9 is impacting the buffer as well. It's on the other plan.
Mr. Chair, is it the HOA bylaws and maintenance and operations, or is that?
Right.
Oh,
right.
okay, I thought you said just the
H-
bylaws.
HOA bylaws and their rules and regulations, or whatever they call them.
Yeah, operations and maintenance,
Maintenance.
I thought.
14, does it make sense to have them send them, or for us to pull those up if they're not gonna be coming for another meeting?
Well, why don't we ask them to make a copy of the latest ones? Because it may be, since the original construction of those 7 houses, or 8 houses, there may have been changes.
I do have another question. I'm just looking at your soil type here. On the original 2000, was this 3 or 8? You have 3 different soil types, and then under the other plans, you just list the 220C Bosquen? Is that because of the size of the plan, or?
Right.
Okay.
It was the whole 60, 50 acres of the parent parcel had multiple soil types, but these were just septic designs for these pods.
Just those spots, okay, that's what I wondered, thank you.
I've got another note here. In your application, we were requesting a CUP to allow construction in the 50 to 30-foot buffer in accordance with the original approval. Well, we believe that the subdivision is vested and not subject to the 50-foot setback requirement. We are submitting an application to reserve all legal rights. You may gather from what I've been saying that I think you should stay outside the 50-foot buffer. I mean, that's my opinion, as lowly as it is,
No, it's not low, it's a good
but that's
good
part of
idea.
the original application, and I would be inclined to deny it, you know, as much as I could, if you impress upon the buffer. Not that we have a lot of say here, usually,
Well, it was originally approved as a 30-foot.
I understand.
Right.
Which would meet.
but it's one of my other considerations.
Right. And you have two members of this commission that have already wrestled with that issue, and
Ultimately,
had-
it's up to the planning board
Right.
to decide
right,
what
but
happens.
we've had to, I'll speak for myself, I had to abide by the 50-foot buffer. So, okay.
Yeah, it's a little different from a different perspective.
Oh, I understand.
Essentially, a deck, when you built a deck, that was new development. I know it seems like it's an addition, but that would be considered new development, whereas this is an existing development that was approved, and this has not been finished yet.
No,
So
but
it'd be like you had no house on the lot, but it was approved for a house, and so it's not exactly apples and apples, but it's,
Not to appear totally negative towards you, which I'm not. I think that the whole concept is quite good. We need the housing in Laconia, the price range is what to be expected. The houses are not right on top of each other, which is nice. You got a good layout. If you can just conform it to the things that we're proposing, I think you're gonna be okay.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we would want is, we would want to add that there would be silt fencing and silt socks, and the silt socks would be,
I think they're mentioned somewhere in
already-
here.
right,
I've already had them do that.
okay, all right. I didn't, okay. Does anybody have anything else? I think the thing I would like to see is a larger plan that shows where this is relative, you know, you're sitting on top of an aquifer. And you're at the top, you're not at the top necessarily, but you're on the, definitely near the top of the hill, and down near the ice rink and what's the gravel place, the granite place?
Gilbert.
Block.
Gilbert Block. Yeah, those are, those, and so, anyway. So if you could show us, and I don't know, I don't want you to have to put in groundwater monitoring wells and all that kind of stuff, but use existing information to show us the way the water flows from this property relative to the area downhill, down near 107.
That's
down
probably
that
all
way.
available on existing.
Yeah, it should be,
maps and
yeah,
whatnot.
it should be available.
Dean, and I don't know if they're going to be coming back to the commission
Right.
again.
Okay,
So
but,
just
but
have
if they supply that information for the TRC too, which is going to be in a couple weeks, right?
Or the submission date is I think,
This says the 5th on the letter here.
5th of September?
no, I think that is the submission date.
Yeah.
Okay, and our next meeting is
That submission date.
Right,
the 5th of September.
yes.
So we could look at it, just so that we could better understand.
No, they would have to come back again.
We can't even
Okay.
look at it?
No, you cannot look at the plan, you cannot go over the plans without having the applicant here.
Could we attend the TRC too?
Can, but it would have to be in the audience. So you, unless you came down to the office beforehand downstairs, you would not be privy to it like the rest of us are. So it would be all the departments going over the plans.
Okay, well, that's,
So I think, and, to get all the recommendations for them, from us now, so that they can apply that.
Right.
And I'll review I review it for TRC.
I think we could probably approve it with all the subject to all the recommendations, couldn't we?
That's
If we
what
need
we're
some-
doing, is when you all give me your recommendations, I will then put them together
Yeah.
with, I'll put them together and submit them to the applicant to have them submit for TRC two.
okay.
Yeah, so what we could do, like the HOA bylaws, you had talked about making sure that there were maintenance agreements in place to maintain these facilities. You could make a recommendation that staff and TRC two and the planning board, they actually, to be honest with you, at TRC one, the planning board asked for copies of the HOA documents, so they've already.
I can check them for,
Okay,
I can check them when they come
So
in.
those would be good, so that's good recommendations for you guys to make. These are your concerns.
Mhm.
You want somebody to look at this stuff and make sure. And that's what the planning board's looking for from you guys.
Right.
Is what do you want us to look at?
Right.
And check on.
and we would want, the homeowners association to understand that they're, regardless of what their thoughts are or what the history was, that there is a 50-foot buffer around the wetlands. So, and that's just so that they know that they can't dump stuff.
I have required them with signage outside of these lots where they abut
Okay.
because all these lots are pretty much surrounded by the open space land.
Okay.
So they will have notifications saying, do not impact this area.
Okay. Okay, so does anybody else have any recommendations? Mr. Christopher, do you have anything else?
Only the items I brought up and
Okay.
ones you other folks have brought up.
Okay.
As for recommendations, I still maintain, we should maintain the buffer.
Right, I agree.
And work around it.
Does someone want a structure motion?
I move that we approve,
We
uh,
wording, support.
support the plan with the recommendations that we discussed and presented to them this evening. That reasonable?
That's reasonable. And that that information be assembled by the TRC too.
Yes,
Second.
that,
Sorry, second motion.
Okay. Anybody have any other comments or questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
that
Thank you.
abstains.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll keep tweaking it
Good.
and come up with something better.
Great, great. Thank you very much.
Don't be too loud back there.
Right, don't be too loud.
I will send you a copy of all the recommendations when I get.
Okay, so the minutes from the previous meeting. Anybody have any comments on the March, I'm sorry,
Need a couple minutes to check them.
August 1st, 2018
Where are
meeting?
you?
March 1st.
No, no.
I think you're a little off there.
You mean August?
That's what I said, August. Second time around, I got it right.
anything here.
Okay, anybody have any comments on the minutes?
I wondered about the, Granite United Way Day of Caring, so 6.1. Did we say we were gonna stenciling drains to wetland, or were we going to drains to lake, or drains to what?
Drains to wet.
Do we have drains to wetland
No,
signs?
drains to lake,
Drains to lake.
Lakes?
yeah.
She has, you guys have.
We don't have wetlands.
You don't have wetland
We have
signs.
drains to
Oh, no,
lake
no,
or
no, I
drains
get-
to stream.
I think, I'm thinking Public Works has drains to wetlands ones,
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
or that's what Wes told me, at least.
Okay,
okay.
This is
Whatever.
what we discussed drains to lake, though,
Okay.
Does it,
I don't think.
the WOW Trail, it really does drain to lake rather than a wetland, but that's okay. I think it's up to you, Deb. Doesn't matter. I just,
okay, any other comments?
I move we accept the minutes the minutes of August 1st, 2018 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any additional? So we are gonna make the one change on the third page, drains to lake.
Not if,
That's fine.
not
Okay.
if they have wetland signs, they can use whatever
Okay.
they want. I just thought the signs that existed did not say that. That's
Okay,
all.
all right. So, no other comments? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay, so new business. Upcoming conservation easement walks.
I will do the Eager Island, I mean, that one's easy for me. I'll do the Eager Island again if you don't mind.
When?
Hmm?
You gonna do it now?
Well, not right this second, but
No.
I'll take my camera out this weekend and walk around the, you know.
I was thinking.
I didn't know if it was
timeframe
too
would
wet
be
for
in
you
the
to get
fall.
out there right now.
I don't go out on there. What I do is I
Oh,
go on
okay.
the trestle and I take pictures. I take pictures.
Oh, okay.
What Scott McPhee had done prior, and if you
Didn't
were,
you take a kayak or something?
well, I have a kayak, but I.
No, I
did-
think Scott did. I didn't mean you had to, but.
I thought what was indicated to me the last time was that what Scott did was he stood on the shore in several different locations and took pictures.
Oh.
And when you go up on the trestle by the downtown gym, you have a little bit of elevation that you can see
Right.
down into it. If you would like it done a different way or more involved, then I may pass on it if you want something more than photo documentation. I think at different times we had discussed when they do the drawdown of actually going out there,
Right.
walking out there.
Right.
But I don't, if you just want it done to get it done before, you know, to say, okay, the easement monitoring's been done, and then at another time, just go out there after the drawdown, that, we could do that. It's up to you.
I think photo evidence should be fine.
Okay.
I don't think a lot of people are gonna be, because we're looking for any impacts or anything's changed in the conservation easement.
So I will just, if you will indulge me just a minute, Mr. Chairman. I went to the most recent Winnisquam Watershed Network meeting, and again, it came up that they would like to clean out the shopping carts from the lower end of that, which is near our, that easement area. That's all, I'm just making it
Geez, you
FYI.
know, they ought to have a fishing derby there and pay $10, $15 for each shopping cart dragged out.
I don't know, we may lose fishermen.
No, I'm serious.
No, I know you are, I'm just saying, I'm serious too, there's some carts down there that are kinda, got
Well-
enough sediment that we may lose.
Well, the other thing we could do is,
I wonder if
I think actually, if you confer with the Winnisquam Watershed Network, there may be already some discussions afoot that would address some of that removal, if you.
Can't somebody just take a boat and a
Well, you
hook?
really need to dive. I was thinking, I wonder if John Jude would
He was,
volunteer.
he was supposed to do that when he did the upper section and they
Put a
never
rope
did.
on it, haul it up?
Hey, it's a
I,
trek.
yeah, I think that, the thing I would like to see, if we're gonna do Eager Island, I mean, I understand, cause I've been around there and I took a, probably a 25-foot, sign out of there.
Did you take the easement sign out of there?
No,
Oh.
it's some, I don't even remember what it said, but it didn't say anything about easement, and.
Wildlife sanctuary area, that
no.
was, okay,
No, I did not take that, I would not take that.
okay.
But, cleaning up the river is, that's a different issue
Right.
than the conservation easements, but I think it's something that we should put on the agenda and see if we can't get other city agencies to assist us in doing that, because to take a shopping cart out of the water is not like you get in the water and you pick it up and you move it over, you roll it out, it's,
There will be some, depending on how much movement there was, but from the last time I was out there will be some that we will not be able to get at without divers.
and their
or-
tires too.
Right, but once there's drawdown, there are.
Right, it's
some
much
stuff
more
you can get.
accessible, right,
How did that
okay.
stuff get there in the first place?
Ugh, the
Yeah,
kids,
yeah,
darn
really.
kids.
Some of it was, I mean, I had actually identified a baby stroller that somebody had thrown off this bridge, and after a heavy rainstorm, it made it down
Wow.
several feet.
No kid in it, I
So-
hope.
No, there wasn't, that's what I'm saying, but you can see how stuff.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
the
it
other,
flows
the other
pretty
thing,
good.
yeah, the other thing I was told by, they're no longer here, there was a group called the Winnipesaukee River Divers or something like that. I
Yeah.
don't think any of the members are still in the area. But they were saying what they had witnessed was in the wintertime, people will take stuff out onto the ice and leave it there, and then when you have the spring thaw, it just drops into the lake.
Right, and that's what the Lake Winnipesaukee Association organized doing last year, was to go out while there's still ice on the lake, remove that debris left by fisher people,
Whoever.
and so, anyway. Okay, but we're talking about
So
the
yes, if-
conservation easements.
Yeah, I
sorry.
mean, it would be great to document it from the bridge would be fine.
Yep.
And then when the drawdown comes, then we can think
Clean up
about
the- Clean up the river.
doing a cleanup.
So I'll put that on my list.
Okay, so we have other conservation easements, and Evan, you're looking for people to volunteer to accompany you on those walks? Okay. Okay, so if you could, let's do this. And you had a specific time period in mind, in the fall?
Yes, the fall.
Okay, so if you could make a list of the easements and hypothetical dates.
We've kind of done Prescott, yeah,
Pond
Pearly Pond, we've kind of done that one, right?
Yeah, but that, we'll talk about that.
Do that again?
in-
Oh,
Later.
okay.
And one of the issues that came up at the city council meeting was who owns the buildings at the Harrington easement? Do the Harringtons own the buildings, and the easement is,
The easement is on their property, the buildings are still John Harrington's.
Just the
I'm
link.
sorry?
Bob
Just the-
Harrington.
Huh?
Bob Harrington.
Bob, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's still, the buildings are still Bob Harrington's. It's
Okay.
still his domiciles.
But are they part of the easement, or is that,
I'd
are
have to
those
look.
buildings been separated?
I'd have to go and look at the,
Okay,
but
They're usually not in the easement footprint, although I
Right.
can't say for sure.
right,
because-
so if you could document that, and once you get that documentation about whether the buildings are in the easement or not part of the easement, would you, tell us, and tell, Scott Myers before the next council meeting, please, because one of the councilors asked that question the other night.
When I walked that with Scott, the, Bob Arrington and Scott and myself and you,
Mhm.
we walked along the edge of the easement, and it did not, at that time, include any buildings.
Right, I believe that that is the case.
Yeah, because
Like-
I think conservation land, because you can, I think it applies just to the land, not the actual buildings. Because then
Well-
we're taking his buildings from him if he, look like this, he was already living there, we can't even put a conservation easement unless I look in the deed and it says the buildings.
Right.
There still
Okay,
is.
so if you could just document that they are not in the easement, then let us know at the next meeting. And then, make a list of the easements and approximate dates when you would like, or a range of dates when you would like to do them. Then we can sign up, put them on our schedules.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on the easements? Okay, under old business, we have Granite United Way of Caring. Do we have any, okay, so the projects that have been submitted are stenciling storm drains, Anthony Drive Drainage Project cleanup, cleanup of the public beaches in the city. And so those have already been submitted to the United Way?
That is the list. I recently heard back from Granite United Way. I had to contact their admin person.
Okay.
And she got back to me this week, because Scott, who was in charge of
Mm-hmm,
the website, so I just wanted to run that list by everyone before I start creating all those events for people to sign up for.
okay,
They're doing everything digitally now through their website,
Yeah.
so there's no more, I think, filling out the forms like what Scott would do in the past.
good, okay.
So did they talk with you about, I mean, Scott provided lunch and other stuff. I mean, I don't know if there's any, I was just mentioning it to you. I don't know for follow-up if there's anything they would be expecting from you that they haven't discussed with you. So-
They haven't said anything. Kevin hasn't sent me anything in relation to that. I didn't even know about it until you mentioned it.
So I know there's, well, what it used to be, and I apologize, I haven't been out on the website. So that used to be that the United Way would provide the teams with breakfast at like, I don't know,
Right.
down here at the parish hall. And then wherever these groups would go, then I remember Scott buying like sandwiches in the sandwich trays or whatever and drinks. And when we had water on ice too throughout the day. And I think that all came from the city. So I'm just putting that out there, that if they're expecting lunch, you might want to clarify with them with that, because that would be something you'd have to line up ahead of time.
Okay, yeah, I'll contact Kevin about that tomorrow then.
Okay.
Otherwise, they do everything now, so I go on their website, log in, and then I create the event page for them for people to go online and then can say, oh, I want to volunteer for this one.
Mhm.
So, and they email me every time someone signs up for a project, so.
Right.
And just to clarify what Lisa was talking about, I think we only provided lunch for the project, the people working on the projects in Laconia.
Right,
Not
right.
for everybody.
Thank you, Dean. Yes,
Okay.
that's right. Didn't somebody representing the city also go to the breakfast too, just to be, like, and do an
I think Scott
introduction?
was always there.
And do an introduction?
It was Scott.
Scott was there.
Scott was the one who set it up, I think, because I found one of his paper reports.
Yeah.
Scott set it up and Dean was the contact for everything.
But what I'm saying is, I think somebody also went over to the breakfast as kind of a, thank you very much, this is the introduction, right, the liaison, so I don't know if that needs to be cleared, if you are going to do that, or if you needed, I don't want to volunteer myself, because I don't know what else I'm doing that day, but somebody from the city who's aware of what our projects are should be there as a liaison in case there's questions and stuff. Yeah, okay.
I went 1 year, so I understand what Lisa's talking about. Okay, so do we have any other projects that we want to submit?
I have a question.
Invasive species removal?
I-
Either on the WOW trail or even in the city, like the proper city, like behind the library and that kind of thing.
I could probably take a day out and just go around and see around the city where I can find places on public property.
Right.
I would, if, Deb, if you don't mind, I would rather put the executive director of the WOW Trail in charge of either getting volunteers for that or whether, I don't think we should be taking on the responsibility of,
Yeah.
of lining up volunteers to go do work on the WOW Trail, because we don't know what they may already have lined up or plantings they may have already
Right.
done, and we're sending people out there cutting stuff that they may have planted.
Yeah, I can still put one out for
You could
just
do-
any public city.
Yeah,
public
like behind the
Yeah.
library maybe or
This is the
something.
WOW trail.
Right. Well, on library property, like back in their gardens, they did have invasive species. I
What
don't know if
about
they've
the
taken care-
library?
What?
What about the library?
In the, behind the library where the gardens are, they had, bittersweet back there. So,
You might want to contact the Opechee Garden Club, because they maintain the flowers and whatnot all through there. I used to be a member, and they did work over there.
That brings up my question, my follow-up question, Dick, thank you, is, so we've got these 4 projects listed and say we get people who want to do all 4. Who is like team leader? Are we just going to give them the information and send them on their way, or are they expecting that somebody is going to be there at each location or traveling between the locations to be checking in on them? Or I'm just asking the question because I like I said, I don't want to volunteer myself because I may already have something going on, but I also don't want to leave anybody stranded. Like,
Oh, I think that what we've done in the past was somebody that was responsible, you know, who was like the leader for that particular project. And then they would supply the volunteers that would help.
well, that's what I'm saying. We need to identify either Conservation Commission or planning, or somebody who's interested and it's the city, affiliated with the city at each one of these projects. So if, I mean, we may not get people signing up for multiple projects, but I'm trying to lay the groundwork so it isn't a mad scramble before Labor Day trying to figure out what to do.
Well, what is the exact date of the?
The 12th.
Yep.
September 12th.
Okay, so what we need to do is, we will submit these projects, and they will or will not add them to the list of projects that people can volunteer
Yes,
for.
I understand that.
So that-
Yes, Granite United Way does, they have to approve the projects first.
Right, and then we have to,
And when do we know? When do we know? You're saying they will let you know. Do we know by the 8th which projects people have chosen? Or is that all like the day of, they can choose whatever they want to do?
It's the moment someone signs up for a project, I get an email saying, hey, so this person signed
When's the
up.
cutoff of them signing up?
I'm not sure, I'd have to go look back.
This is what I'm trying to
Yeah,
set
okay,
you
yeah,
up
I'd have
for,
to look. I can go look at that.
so that people aren't signing up on September 11th
right.
for multiple projects and you're like, now what do I do? So that's all. Okay.
so let's submit these 4 projects.
Yep.
And see what the response is. And at the next Conservation Commission meeting, we'll sign up to be leaders for the projects that were selected. Okay, anything else?
Well, or, I'm sorry, Dean, or reach out to other city officials to be able to help cover it.
Right.
Because I don't know that we're all gonna be able to do it.
Okay, anything else on the Day of Caring?
Just a spelling.
I'm sorry?
Stenciling storm drains, and then that first line, it's strom drains.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to pick it up next time, so I might as well pick it up this time.
Okay, anything else on the,
It's giving you more work.
Dave, Karen?
Thank you for your work, Evan, on that.
Okay, so what about the flap grant?
I got bad news.
I'm sorry?
I got bad news.
Mm-mm.
We do not qualify for that grant.
Okay, that,
We do not have any federal lands in this area
okay, so,
we can provide access to.
Mhm.
Federal
Okay.
lands.
Yep, I read it back over again, and I even sent it to Wes, and he pointed it out to me too, because I wanted to make sure I was reading it right. We'd need something like I think that he said the closest thing we have is the White Mountains National Forest up in Franconia and Lincoln. It's the closest thing we have to federal lands. We don't even have a Army Corps of Engineers lake around here.
okay,
The lakes aren't considered.
Nope, they're considered state lands.
The airport FAA. Sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I mentioned that to him, I thought, hey, since EPA is DES's superior agency, aren't they technically considered federal lands? No, it's stops at the state level with that. They're the ones who own the lake bed.
It's too bad we had such good ideas.
Just hang on to
Okay.
those ideas.
Mike had given me an idea, and it was a boat wash. Is something that could have been used for the grant money.
A boat what?
A boat wash.
Oh, the
Oh,
wash
right,
station.
right.
Yeah.
Right. You know, those are all still great ideas. Hold on to them, and there's always gonna be something that'll fit.
Yeah, Lisa's right. There's got to be some grant that's got to be coming up in the future.
okay, next item is the water quality testing, deep water and the tributaries.
Okay. Did everyone get my email?
Mm-hmm. About
Lisa.
sending you dates that you're available? Is that what it
Yeah,
was?
I sent
We should send you dates that we're available?
No, I sent everyone a date saying when I was available to do it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. What,
everyone has
what's the
back.
date,
I
what's the
don't know
date
if I
you're
sent that
available?
one.
No, I meant I'm any day during the week usually, except for TRCs and
I
Fridays.
want you to specifically schedule it.
Okay, so, so the first part, the deep water sampling, we need a boat, and the water department provided a boat in the past.
Yep, I emailed the person who does the testing for the water department. She has not responded back to me yet. I'm gonna contact her again
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay,
I'll probably call over at the water treatment plant.
okay, good, good. Let's do that, and then we'll get, that's because we're relying on somebody else, so that's, more time, more date sensitive or whatever.
I talked to her, she said they go out Thursdays to do it, in the water boat. But I don't know how that works with everyone else's schedules to do it.
I could do it on a Thursday,
Excuse me, Evan, I
but not this coming Thursday.
You mean tomorrow?
have a question.
No,
Are people supposed to be accessing the top of the parking garage? Somebody just saw a group up there, and one kid had a bike with him.
I think you can get up there.
Yeah, there is someone up there, but it's condemned.
Okay, as
Oh,
long
you're
as,
not allowed to even walk up there?
It's condemned at this, it's
well,
condemned it.
you have a group of people who are accessing the top of the parking garage. I just thought I'd let you know.
Maybe you ought to call somebody,
That's what I was just saying.
like the cops,
But I don't know if they aren't supposed to be up there or not. I don't know.
You just put it onto the cops, let them make the decision.
Okay, if somebody wants to call, then,
Well, we can finish the meeting.
okay, so the deep water, I could do a Thursday, I can't do tomorrow, and I can't do the following Thursday, but
Okay.
if that's the only date that they have, that we can go.
I can't do, oh, no, I'm not gonna call, no. I think they should be up there. I think they should be like having a class up there. Let's see.
I'd like to do deep water, but I've had skin problems with sun, and I go out in this, I've been avoiding the sun like crazy all summer long.
Good idea.
I can do tribs.
Okay, and so then we have the tribs. So How many tribs are there again?
Erin, I can do next Thursday.
There's that map I included.
Right, okay, I got it. I'm looking for it right now.
I can do next Thursday.
So there's,
Do you know what time?
Excuse
They usually go in the morning before it gets rough.
Okay. Is that for deep water or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that what you said? They go out Thursdays?
Yes, yep.
so I think, if I counted correctly, there are 15 tribs.
We don't do all those, do we?
Mm-hmm. We have in the past. So we do 15 tribs. 15 tribs would probably take 2 days.
Yeah.
We did 8 tribs for Winnisquam, and it took us, actually, 15 tribs you could do in a full day if you organized the trip so that you didn't waste time backtracking and, so you
It's
could.
easier to do 2 days, though.
It's easier to do 2, and it's definitely easier with at least 2 people.
Yeah.
The meters are pretty easy, once you get it set up and you understand how you do it, they're pretty easy to use. The one that we questioned was conductivity. Conductivity seemed to be, in some cases, off a little bit. The meter was off, but that could have just been something we were doing. So, anyway, so let's say it takes 2 days to do the tribs. Anybody have a day that they could do it? I think I could do Monday or Tuesday of next week. And all those samples are, you collect a water sample, which is submitted to DES, to,
Co-op.
The Lay Lakes, is that VRAP?
Co-op takes the deep water stuff.
Yeah, we-
DES takes
the tribs.
the tributaries.
Oh,
Their
okay.
limnology lab takes those samples.
Okay, so I could do Monday or Tuesday of next week.
Do you want to plan on Tuesday then?
Wait a minute, I can't. Got a mind like a steel trap, just rusty. Depending on the weather, we're gonna do Winnisquam tribs Monday, and if it's bad weather, then we're gonna do it Tuesday, so I can't. So I can't use the equipment, but if we do Winnisquam on Monday, I could do,
Weather looks good both days.
yeah, I could do Tuesday,
Okay.
okay. All right, anybody else have any dates that they could do?
I'd
Next
have to
week.
look at my calendar and see what,
So if, let's email Evan,
Mike might.
yeah, let's email Evan when we could do the deeps,
Okay.
and then a separate set of dates for doing the tributaries. And if we could do tributaries in August and September, and the same with the lake, the deep lake, do August and September, so we can start getting some data. So anybody who can volunteer for that time, that would be great. Okay, anything else on the water testing. All right, what about any subcommittee reports?
I spoke briefly with Karen Barker today, and Karen, Rick DeMark from North Country RC&D and Kelly McAdam from Cooperative Extension, Vallamp County, are looking at, I'm not exactly, I think they want to prepare something to discuss at the next Lakeshore redevelopment meeting.
Okay,
But, I mean, I don't want to elaborate because I wasn't part of the meeting where they talked about this. She just gave me this quick update today. So that is something that, somebody's been attending those meetings. I didn't realize when the last one was, and they will follow up on that.
okay. Do we know when the next meeting is?
I might even be next week. I could be wrong. I don't know. I was going to see if I could find it online, but I haven't been in the office since she told me that, so.
Okay. Anything else?
How about that?
Okay. Any other business?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
why not?
Yeah, I had a question too.
The general discussion on this 50-foot right-of-way, I mean, a
Mm-hmm, buffer.
buffer. When was that voted on, do you remember? When did that come into existence versus the 30?
Just recently, didn't it?
It's not that old.
12,
2 years?
Yeah, something like that.
When?
2012?
2012, 50-foot? Okay. The reason I seem so obstinate sometimes, which is most of the time, I guess, if you follow my actions, is that if we make an exception for one person or group, there's going to be others that are going to be looking for the same thing. Now, there's a proposed subdivision coming up that we haven't seen yet, but it's on White Oaks Road. And they have an old subdivision that they're reactivating. You've probably been reading about it. New Hope Drive, I believe.
Yeah.
And they're in the same situation, only more so, I believe, than some of the ones we've been reviewing lately. And at some point, they're gonna be coming to us, looking for an exception, and then going to the planning, looking for an exception and all that, and we're gonna have to make a decision one way or another on their proposals. And if we give an exception for one and not for another, I don't think there's a consistency there.
Isn't DES looking at, like, the proposed rules changes now anyway? I mean, or isn't that, or is that just shoreline?
Well, but that, for wetlands they are, but that's, they're not gonna change the city's 50-foot buffer. The city's buffer has to be more stringent than theirs.
Well,
than the state.
I understand that. I guess what I was saying was there may be other things coming up soon that we'll have to be dealing with anyway. So we want to, I'm kind of reaffirming what you're saying is we think we need to stick to our guns, and then, because there's probably going to be some changes coming along the pike anyway,
Right.
that we're going to need to start adhering to or improving upon.
The ones
So-
we recently have reviewed is minimal, but I think anything else is gonna be a major request.
Yep.
I think that's right, and I've been concerned about us setting a precedent.
That's what I'm getting at, precedent.
Yeah.
Right, and then having that come back, and, so I think that if we, I actually think that one of the things we need to do is request that the planning board have a liaison that attends our meetings.
Supposed to.
I know, and we did for a while, but that stopped. And we need to request that the planning board have a representative that
I
comes
mean,
here.
they could have one of their backup people, be the representative, couldn't they?
Sure,
Do they have alternates for the planning board, or are they
Mhm.
are they?
yeah.
They
Oh.
should.
Well, so
I
should
think
we?
they- I think they do.
I know they're advertising for positions on all these city things, including our commission here.
Right,
We have no alternates.
excuse me.
Right.
No, we're down one anyway.
So-
Frequently.
I agree with Dick that, we're, we need to be careful when we make exceptions because we're setting a precedent. It could be considered setting a precedent. So,
With the project that we saw tonight, Trail Haven, yeah, we forgot to include,
Can't hear you.
we want to include with the suggestions for Trail Haven that they remove any invasive species.
I already have that sitting.
It was
right
on
there
the
in
li-
my
it was on there.
recommendations.
Because there is bittersweet back there.
I've already required them
And I
to do
think
that
all
while
of
they're
them.
when they start clearing the lots, because everything's still wooded.
Right.
When they start clearing that, any invasives they come across are to be removed.
Where's this?
The plans that we saw tonight,
Oh.
Trail Haven, are they gonna take down a lot of trees, do you know?
No, there's some cleared out areas there, or there's some, it's patchy kind of thing. There's trails that run through there.
Not much, though.
Not much,
It's
but-
pretty wooded.
Yeah,
I don't wanna see them from my backyard.
So I'm sorry, Evan, we had talked about at one time having a 3-ring binder with all like the stuff the Conservation Commission may ask and all that. It looked like from that letter that you may have taken, the questions you might get asked, looked like that was a checklist that we had talked about having. Is that document available, or are you incorporating it into the letters that you send to people?
I kind of incorporate it into my comments, but I can also have a binder put together for that.
Well, we've just talked about it off and on as having something right there down at the planning
I
office.
think if we just have a checklist.
Yeah, we already have a checklist for TRC things that I say I'm going to be looking at, and the things I'm going to be looking at are usually the same things that all
Okay.
of you will be looking at.
I was just wondering, I was just wondering if that gets conveyed to them ahead of time, because excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if this is not the time to talk about that, I just always feel like when an applicant comes to us and it kind of seems like news to them, that I always feel a little bit bad, because they could have thought about it ahead of time if it had been, you had the letter and he goes, oh, it's the first time I've seen this. So that's why.
What was?
I handed Tim the letter out of
Yeah.
my packet, and he
Yeah.
goes, well, I haven't seen this before.
Oh, no.
No, wait a minute, that was dated the 8th.
I'm just letting you know.
That's a week old.
That TRC comment is what we gave to them at the TRC before they came to the commission.
Okay, well, he could be that he just didn't recognize
read
it.
it.
He didn't recognize it or whatever. That's all. I don't want to belabor it. I just thought I'd mention it. Thank you.
I had 2 questions about development. Union Avenue by Napa. There's a bunch of construction equipment sitting on that lot. Are they doing something there?
Yeah.
Did
Yes,
we miss that?
they are putting in a new building.
Okay, we don't have to look at that?
That one, no, it's not in the 50-foot buffer.
Okay.
They,
It's close to
Stephen
the
Smith
lake.
was the one who did it,
Close to the lake.
and they stayed out of that area.
And then Messer Street. They, on the corner of Messer Street and,
Lyford,
yeah,
yep, they're also out of the 50-foot buffer.
okay, but they pretty much, they were clearing that lot today.
They can do that in that area.
Okay. Or is there a house going in there or what?
They would like to subdivide the property.
It's so small.
Subdivided it.
What else is said?
It's tiny,
It's like a one lot.
yeah.
Putting in
I don't-
doghouses.
I do not know what they want to do with it, but they want to subdivide it into 2 properties. We just got updated plans today for it.
Hmm.
Because TRC, they needed to show where they're going to stub in utilities.
Tiny house?
Yeah, maybe.
Tiny houses.
Yeah.
Wow,
So-
okay.
Okay, I went, the Opechee Beach, which is,
Yeah.
no swimming. There is serious erosion on as you face the lake on the left-hand side. And I don't know whether there's a
On the street.
pipe that comes out, or if there is a swale And
I think there's a pipe that comes out there.
and I mentioned it to somebody in planning, bless you, and they said they were going to, I guess I talked to Brandy, and she, when I was talking about something else, and she said she was gonna mention it to you, to mention to Kevin Dunleavy.
No, this is the first I've heard of it.
Okay,
So-
but they,
It might have just gotten thrown to the back of her mind, since she deals with a
On
lot
the
of
left side of the
stuff.
cove, near the road. Is that what you mean?
Picnic
it's,
tables are on that side, isn't it?
yeah, it's on the picnic table side, but it's the beach that's being eroded away. So if you could tell Kevin, that would be great.
It's interesting.
There is a pipe that comes in there.
Well,
Yeah.
further up though, not down by the beach, further up. Because I remember it was something that the district worked with Luke Powell on, that culvert that comes down, it's not Mitchell Place, I forget what that road is.
Yeah.
That culvert that comes down through there and exits, we put in coir logs and plantings and all that stuff. Well, I'm just saying, that up, but I don't think there's any beach right on the edge of that. I think the beach is down here further. So that's why I said it was interesting, I don't know what that.
Okay, is there anything else? Any staff report?
When's the next meeting again?
Okay, no staff report?
September
I haven't
5th.
issued any
September
violation
6th.
orders.
Fifth.
This was the only wetland CUP coming through the pipe.
Yuck.
Nope, just been plugging away at day of caring and trying to get outreach out. I did put in a advertisement in the links. I had Nancy put in one for day of caring for people if they had any projects
Good,
to send us something. Also put one in for anybody in the city would like to volunteer for water testing. Help do water testing, to contact our office.
good, okay, great. Great.
I spoke to the woman in charge of the farmer's market. She says they'd be fine with us having a booth there once, on a Saturday. She just wants to know what Saturday.
The other thing, well, I was thinking about that, I didn't want to jump on you about it, but Pumpkin Fest too, we need to follow up with Pumpkin Fest.
Okay, so when is the farmer's market? Saturdays?
Every Saturday.
Saturdays, yeah.
Every Saturday, and it's in the
So-
parking lot here?
No Thursdays anymore, huh?
No,
Well, at least on their website, it only says Saturdays.
Right.
It
there-
is only
No more
Saturday.
Thursdays.
That's so sad.
wow.
I know
Okay.
that a lot of people didn't show up.
Okay,
So as long as we can get it down, what date coming up, we'd like to, and I can get it to her in time. We should be able to do that and have a booth.
Do I need a
Okay.
tent?
I don't think so.
Oh, you wanna sit out in the sun?
I have one we could use. What's the one that you used?
That's the Master Gardener one.
Oh, okay.
That's, one of them they use over in Guilford. The other one is sitting right next to you, Lisa, in the county office there.
And
Yeah, out back there. I'm sure we could get that. The 10 by 10 pop-up.
It would probably be better than mine that's red, white, and blue that says Keebler on it.
I
Keebler cookies.
don't know, I think any one of us
It
could pass as an elf, yeah.
It doesn't say Budweiser or anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
You might get more people coming over if it says that.
yeah,
I
well,
think we could
okay.
get the Master Gardener one, that's just sitting there.
Yeah,
And there's probably use some tables from them too, get a table. If we're gonna do that every Saturday, then we should store it somewhere.
Not every
Rather than
Saturday.
try to haul it upstairs again at the
County.
courthouse there.
And chairs. We need chairs, right?
Yeah, a couple of chairs,
Bring your own chair.
BYOC.
Chairs?
BYOC.
Take a
Okay.
couple of these guys.
So,
Council won't miss them.
it's almost 8 o'clock, so if there's nothing else, let's go into non-public session.